Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses, bruvs and bruvettes, welcome back to episode 19 of the Totally Innocent Podcast. 19 weeks in a row. That's nuts. I'm your host, Alex Reichen. Thank you for coming back each week. I greatly appreciate it. It is week 2 of spoopy season. Fantastic. Second week of October. And today we are going to be looking at the case that inspired the 2008 cult classic film, The Strangers. Okay, and I love The Strangers. Thought it was a fantastic movie. I guess there's a second one. Haven't seen it. But if you haven't seen The Strangers is a 2008 American psychological horror film written and directed by Brian Bertino. The plot follows Kristen, played by Liv Taylor, and James, played by Scott Speedman, where the two stay at a vacation home. And while they're staying there, their vacation is disrupted by 3 masked criminals who infiltrate the home. The screenplay was inspired by 2 real-life events, the multiple homicide Manson family tape murders, and a series of break-ins that occurred in Bertino's neighborhood as a child. Some journalists noted similarities between the film and the Ketty Cabin murders that occurred in Ketty, California in 1981, though Bertino did not cite this as a reference for his movie. The movie was made on a $9 million budget. The film was shot on location in rural South Carolina in the fall of 2006. It was originally stated for a release in 2007, but it was postponed before a theatrical release on May 30th of 2008. The film became a sleeper hit, grossing $82 million at the box office worldwide, although it did receive mixed reviews from critics. Some praised the atmosphere and tension, others criticized the script and the characters. Contemporary film scholars have interpreted it as a criticism of the perceived safety of pastoral life, as well as an exploration of stranger-on-stranger violence. So, cool. Yeah, that movie was fantastic freaky. I don't care what the critics say. I'm the type of person that, if the reviews are bad and I watch it, you know what? Just fuck reviews, okay? Straight up, because there are a lot of critics out there that I feel like are self-given the title of critic, that are actually really fucking dumb. So make the choice for yourself, right? Plenty of things out there that have been reviewed badly that I actually thoroughly enjoy and really like. We're going to talk about the Manson family, Charles Manson, and specifically the Tate family murders that this film was inspired by today. Fantastic. First, of course, we got some announcements after we read a comment left by Tasha Lawrence, who just says, annoying. That's not helpful. I don't know if you're talking about me. I don't know if you're talking about Jodi Arias. That's the case that this was left for. I don't know specifically, but it's not helpful. But thank you for your comment anyway. So yeah, if you want to find us on Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/cancelcult or at cancelcult over there. On Twitter, you can find us at cancelcult1. I'm not going to tell you why, because if you don't know by now, then you're never going to know. All right. You can find us on YouTube by heading on over to YouTube and typing in the search bar Canceled Cult Productions. We don't have a custom URL. Stop being lazy about it. Okay? I got to tell you every week. So you can do that. If you want to tell me who to cover next, send something into the show, want something read on air, you can send an email to cancelcultproductions@gmail.com. And for anything else Totally Innocent, you can head on over to totallyinnocentpodcast.com, find out how to support the show with our subscription service over there through Anchor. You can find out where to find the Amazon affiliate links or merch over there, or you can listen to the show right from the website. We got 2 weeks left. I've decided to push the deadline of the limited edition Murder Is on the Menu t-shirt over there at at totallyinnocentpodcast.com. Fantastic. Special thanks to our spots today for Anchor for sponsoring the episode, as well as our partners and friends over at 3G. The episode's also brought to you by totallyinnocentpodcast.com. So we're going to take a look at the Charles Manson family, Tate family murders that inspired the 2008 cult classic film, The Strangers. And I don't really have a scary story today. I said I'm going to save my Ouija board story for the Lorraine and Ed Warren case that I probably do right before Halloween, right? So I think that'll be a good place to share that story at. So I say we just hop on in, take a look at what happened, what inspired the film, and then we'll get you out of here on your lovely, lovely Wednesday afternoon. Let's fucking run it. Are you a fan of having your mood boosted? Being calm and relaxed, soothing aches and pains, motivation, better sleep, less nauseous, and increased appetite? And you think, well, I get all that with the devil's lettuce. Head over and check out our friends at 3Chi and check out their Delta 8 products. Find out more at totallyinnocentpodcast.com. Get the high end without all the sirens. Let me set the scene real quick. You're laying in bed one night listening to Totally Innocent thinking, God damn it, this podcast is so good. I wish I had the skills and the talent to make a podcast the way that Alex does. Well, you might not have the talent, but you do have the technology. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, it's free. Number two, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Number three, Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you for free so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your show. No minimum listenership is required. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. This week's episode is brought to you by totallyinnocentpodcast.com. You can head on over and get the latest and greatest news, check out the newest episodes, support the show with the new subscription feature we talked about earlier, as well as Amazon affiliate links. You want to start your own podcast? I got links for that. Get over there, decide you don't want to start your podcast, you were going to buy something anyway, we still get a kickback, and we greatly appreciate that. You can also check out our merch selection with the newly released Murder is on the Menu tee. Head on over to totallyinnocentpodcast.com to get yours today. Charles Miles Manson was born on November 12th of 1934. He was an American criminal who led the Manson family, a cult based in California, in the late 1960s. Some of the members committed a series of 9 murders at 4 locations in July and August of 1969. In 1971, Manson was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of 7 of those people, including film actress Sharon Tate, the main case that we will be discussing today, or the main murders that we will be talking about today that inspired The Strangers. The prosecution contended that while Manson never directly ordered the murders, his ideology constituted an overt act of conspiracy. Before the murders, Manson had spent more than half of his life in correctional institutions. While gathering his cult following, Manson was a singer-songwriter on the fringe of the LA music industry, chiefly through a chance association with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys, who introduced Manson to record producer Terry Melcher. So, fuck the Beach Boys. They're the reason that this happened. Just kidding. Allegedly. 1968, the Beach Boys recorded Manson's song Cease to Exist, renamed Never Learn Not to Love, as a single B-side. They did not credit Manson. Manson got mad. Afterward, Manson attempted to secure a record contract through Melcher, but he was unsuccessful. Damn. It's rough. Manson would often talk about the Beatles, including the 1968 self-titled album. According to Los Angeles County District Attorney Vincent Bugliosi, Manson felt guided by his interpretation of the Beatles' lyrics and adopted the term helter-skelter to describe an impending apocalyptic race war. During his trial, Bugliosi argued that Manson had intended to start a race war. Although Manson and others disputed this, contemporary interviews and trial witness testimony insisted that the Tate LaBianca murders were copycat crimes intended to exonerate Manson's friend, Bobby Busoli. Manson himself denied having instructed anyone to murder anyone. Manson's notoriety as an emblem of insanity, violence, and the Macraby-influenced pop culture. I don't know. I'm bad with words sometimes. Recording of songs written and performed by Manson were released commercially, starting with Lie, The Love, and the Terror Cult. Nice. Since his incarceration, various musicians have covered some of his songs. Although originally sentenced to death in 1971, his sentence was commuted to life with the possibility of parole after California Supreme Court invalidated the state's death penalty statute in 1972. He served his life sentence at California State Prison, Cochran, and died at the age of 83 in late 2017. And good, this guy's a piece of shit. Nice. Yeah. So that's the introduction to Charles Manson. We'll get into his early life, first offenses, imprisonments, etc., when he started forming his cult, and then we'll get to the actual crime that inspired the movie. So let's hop on over to that, take a look at his early life and what led up to these events, because I'm curious now. So let's head on over there. I lied in the beginning. I do have a scary story to tell today. When I was a child, my parents took me to see the Beach Boys live in concert. Knowing what I know now, that one of them is the reason for Charles Manson's psychotic, murderous rampage, that could have been me. Of course, I'm joking. I did see them live, but this is all just messing around, right? I don't understand cults, right? Cults seem very weird to me. Like, there is one person who seems to be all-knowing. Maybe God speaks to them or through them, or they just have this ideology that things should be a certain way. And then you join this person in a compound or in a little gated community, and then you either murder people or kill yourself. I really don't get it. I really don't. But we'll get to the cult formation and everything. First, we want to take a look at the childhood. Charles Manson, born on November 12th, 1934, to 16-year-old Kathleen Manson, in the University of Cincinnati Academic Health Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was named Charles Miles Maddox. Manson's biological father appears to have been Colonel Walker Henderson Scott Sr. Of Kentucky, I guess, against whom Kathleen Maddox filed a paternity suit that resulted in an agreed judgment in 1937. Scott worked intermittently in local mills and had a local reputation as a con artist. He allowed Maddox to believe that he was an Army colonel, although colonel was merely his given name. So he was not actually part of the military. I feel like that's stolen valor, right? I don't know. When Maddox told Scott that she was pregnant, he told her that he had been called away on Army business. Oh, shit. Oh, we're having a baby, but I'm drafted. Shit. After several months, she realized that he had no intention of returning. So sad. Manson never knew his biological father. In August of 1934, before Manson's birth, Maddox married William Eugene Manson, a laborer at a dry cleaning business. Maddox often went on drinking sprees with her brother Luther, leaving Charles with multiple babysitters, like at the same time, or they divorced on April 30th of 1937 after William alleged gross neglect of duty by Maddox. Charles retained William's last name, Manson. On August 1st, 1939, Luther and Kathleen Maddox were arrested for assault and robbery. Kathleen and Luther were sentenced to 5 years and 10 years of imprisonment, respectively. Manson was placed in a home of an aunt and uncle, in McMechen, West Virginia. His mother was paroled in 1942. Manson later characterized the first week after she returned from prison as the happiest time of his life. Weeks after Maddox's release, Manson family moved to Charleston, West Virginia, where Manson continually played truant, and his mother spent her evenings drinking. What a time to be alive. She was arrested for grand larceny, but not convicted. The family later moved to Indianapolis, where Maddox met an alcoholic named Lewis, no first name, through Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and married him in August of 1943. Nice. In an interview with Diane Sawyer, Manson said that when he was 9, he set his school on fire. He also got in trouble for truancy, petty theft. Although there were a lack of foster home placements in 1947 at the age of 13, Manson was placed in a school for boys of sorts in Indiana, a school for male delinquents run by Catholic priests. Cool, I guess. Manson fled home to his mother and spent Christmas 1947 in McMechen at his aunt and uncle's house. His mother returned him to the school 10 months later, but 10 months later, he ran away to Indianapolis. In 1948, in Indianapolis, Manson committed his first known crime by robbing a grocery store. The first robbery was simply to find something to eat. However, Manson found a cigar box containing just over $100, and he took the money. That he used the money to rent a room in Indianapolis Skid Row and to buy some food. For the first time, Manson had a job delivering messages for Western Union in an attempt to live free of crime. However, he quickly began to realize that he did not like this and he wanted to go back to petty theft, like an idiot. He was eventually caught, and in 1949, a sympathetic judge sent him to Boys Town, a juvenile facility in Omaha, Nebraska. After 4 days at Boys Town, that name just bugs me. I'm not gonna lie. Boys Town. Head on down to Boys Town. He and fellow student Blackie Nielsen obtained a gun, and then they decided they want to steal a car. They used it to commit 2 armed robberies on their way home. On the way to the home of Nielsen's uncle in Illinois. Nielsen's uncle was a professional thief. When the boys arrived, he allegedly took them on as apprentices. Manson was arrested 2 weeks later during a nighttime raid on a store. In an investigation that followed, he was linked to the 2 earlier armed robberies, and he was sent to the Indiana Boys School, which was a strict reform school at the time. Nice. On a psychiatrist's recommendation, Manson was transferred in October of 1951 to Natural Bridge Honor Camp. It's a minimum security institution. His aunt visited him and told administrators that she would let him stay at her house and she would help him find work. Manson had a parole hearing scheduled for February of 1952. However, in January, he was caught raping a boy at knife point. So it kind of tells you how well reformed this was and how well this institution worked. Fantastic. Manson was transferred to the Federal Reformation in Petersburg, Virginia. There he committed a further 8 serious disciplinary offenses, 3 involving homosexual acts. I assume rape. He was then moved to a maximum security reformatory in Ohio, where he was expected to remain until his release on his 21st birthday in November of 1955. So 4 more years. Sweet. Good behavior led to an early release in 1954 to live with his aunt and uncle in McMechen. In January of 1955, Manson married a hospital waitress named Rosalie Jean Willis. Around October, about 3 months after he and his pregnant wife arrived in L.A., in a car that he had stolen from Ohio, by the way, Manson was again charged with a federal crime for taking the vehicle across state lines. After a psychiatric evaluation, he was given 5 years probation. Manson's failure to appear at Los Angeles hearing on an identical charge filed in Florida resulted in his March 1956 arrest in Indianapolis. His probation was revoked. He was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. You could see that this guy was, just in and out of prison, right? He was released in 1967. This is where he was released from prison in 1967. He moved to Berkeley from Los Angeles, where he could have had a probation violation. Instead, after calling the San Francisco probation office upon his arrival, he was transferred to the supervision of criminology doctor research and federal probation officer Roger Smith until the spring of 1968. Smith worked at a free medical clinic, which Mason and his family frequented through their stay while they were there. He received permission. Manson received permission from Roger while he was there to move from Berkeley to Haight-Ashbury District in San Francisco. He first took LSD and would use it frequently during his time there. So that was his first time using LSD, and he would frequently use it while he was there. David Smith, who studied the effects of LSD and amphetamines in rodents, wrote that the change in Manson's personality during this time was the most abrupt Roger Smith had ever seen in his professional career. Nice. I don't know what else to say, right? He's kind of a piece of shit. Manson had already gained his first follower at the UC Berkeley campus, librarian Mary Brunner. He talked her into letting him sleep at her house for a few nights, an arrangement that quickly became permanent. He then met Lynette Squeaky Fromm, a runaway teen, and convinced her to live with him and Brunner. Manson soon began to attract larger crowds of listeners and some dedicated followers. He targeted individuals for manipulation who were emotionally insecure and social outcasts. In his book, Love Needs Care, about his time at the HAFMC, David Smith claims that Manson attempted to reprogram their minds to submit totally to his will through the use of LSD. Okay, that makes sense. Unconventional sexual practices. that would turn his followers into empty vessels that would accept anything that he poured. Manson family member Paul Watkins testified that Manson would encourage group LSD trips and take lower doses himself to keep his wits about him. Nice. Watkins said that Charles' trip was to program us all to submit. By the end of his stay in the Height in April 1968, Manson had attracted 20 or so followers, all under the supervision of his parole officer, Roger Smith, and many of the staff at HAFMC. The core member of Manson's following eventually included Charles Tex Watson, a musician and former actor, Bobby Busoli, whatever, a former musician and pornographic actor, and Brunner, Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten. Supervised by his parole officer, Roger Smith, Manson grew his family through drugs and prostitution without interference from authorities. Manson was arrested on July 31st, 1967 for attempting to prevent the arrest of one of his followers, Ruth Ann Morehouse. Instead of being sent back to prison, the charge was reduced to a misdemeanor, and Manson was given 3 additional years of probation. He avoided prosecution again in July 1968, and he and his family were arrested while moving from San Francisco to L.A. With permission of Roger Smith, when his bus crashed into a ditch where Manson and members of his family, including Brunner and Manson's newborn baby, were found sleeping naked by police. Afterwards, he was again arrested and released only a few days later, this time on a drug charge. Nice. So he basically would use LSD and sex to brainwash and manipulate his followers into following him. That is a real piece of shit. That's a real piece of shit. Fantastic. So I want to get into the Tate murders. Excuse me. I want to get into the Tate murders and the LaBianca murders that eventually brought on the movie The Strangers. So let's hop on over into that. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on Charles Manson. It was a little bit of a mouthful, but I think we made it through. So thank you for sticking with it. Let's hop on over to the crime and what happened after that. Yeah, let's run it. So we knew that during that first part that Manson had garnered about 20 followers, but he was busy, right? The Manson family was a commune gang cult, all led by Charles Manson, that was active in California in the late 1960s and early 1970s, and the group at that time consisted of approximately 100 followers. So he was busy. They all lived unconventional lifestyles with habitual use of hallucinogenic drugs such as LSD. Most were young women from middle-class backgrounds, many of whom were radicalized by Manson's teachings and drawn in by hippie culture and communal living. Soon after release from prison in 1967, Manson, who had been incarcerated for more than half of his life, began attracting acolytes in the San Francisco area. They gradually moved to a rundown ranch called the Spawn Ranch, I believe, in Los Angeles County. The ranch burned down during a Southern California wildfire in September of 1970. According to the group, a group member, Susan Atkins, the members of the family were convinced that Manson was a manifestation of Jesus Christ and believed in his prophecies concerning the imminent apocalyptic race war. In 1969, family member Tex Watkins, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel entered the home of Hollywood actress Sharon Tate and murdered her and 4 others. And that is the case, or the crime that we are going to take a look at now. So let's hop into that. The Tate /La Bianca murders were a series of murders perpetrated by members of the Manson family during August 8th through the 10th in 1969 in Los Angeles, California, under the direction of Tex Watson and Charles Manson. The perpetrators first killed 5 people on the nights of August 8th through the 9th, and then they moved on from there. So we will take a look at the Tate murders and the La Bianca murders here, and get you out of here on your lovely Wednesday afternoon. On the night of August 8th, 1969, Tex Watson took Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, and Patricia Krenwinkel to 10050 Celio Drive, Watson claims Manson had instructed him to go to the house and, according to Watson, totally destroy, quote unquote, everyone in it and to do it, quote unquote, as gruesome as you can. Manson told the women to do as Watson instructed them. Sorry, I got mixed up there. The occupants of the house at 100050 Celio Drive, or 10,050 Celio Drive, that evening were actress Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, and the wife of film director Roman Polanski. Her friend and former lover, Jay Sebring, a noted celebrity hairstylist. Polanski's friend, I'm not even going to try that, Wojciech? Cool. And his girlfriend, Abigail Folger, heiress to the Folgers' coffee fortune and daughter of Peter Folger. Nice. Also present on the property was William Garretson and Stephen Parent. Polanski was in Europe working on a film at the time. Watson and the three women arrived at Celio Drive just past midnight on August 9th, 1969. Watson climbed a telephone pole near the entrance gate and cut the phone line to the house. The murderers backed their car to the bottom of the hill that led to the estate and walked up to the house. They thought that the gate might be electrified or equipped with an alarm, so they climbed a bushy embankment to the right of the gate and entered the grounds. Headlights would approach them from within the property. Watson would order the women to lie in the bushes. He stepped out and ordered the approaching driver to halt. Stephen Parent had been visiting the property's caretaker, William Garretson, who lived in the guest house. Watson leveled a .22 caliber revolver at Parent, who begged him not to hurt him, claiming that he would not say anything. Watson lunged at Parent with a knife, giving him a defensive slash wound on the palm of his hand that severed tendons and tore the boy's watch off his wrist. He then shot Parent 4 times in the chest and abdomen, killing him. Watson ordered the women to help push the car further up the driveway. Watson next cut the screen window, then told Kasabian to keep watch down the gate. She walked over to Parent's car and waited. Watson removed the screen, entered through the window, and let Atkins and Kerwinkle in through the door. He whispered to Atkins and awoke. What is his name? Wojciech. He whispered and woke Wojciech, who was sleeping in the living room couch. Watson kicked him in the head, and Wojciech asked him who he was and what he was doing there. Watson replied with quote unquote, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business." Yikes. On Watson's direction, Atkin found the house's 3 other occupants with Krenwinkel's help and forced them into the living room. Watson began to tie Tate and Sebring together by their necks with rope, which he had bought, then slung it over the living room's ceiling beams. Sebring protested the murderer's rough treatment of the pregnant Tate, so Watson shot him for being an asshole. Folger was taken momentarily back to her bedroom to her purse, where she gave the murderers $70. Nice. Watson then stabbed Sebring 7 times. Wojciech's hands had been bound with a towel, but he freed himself and began struggling with Atkins, who stabbed him in the leg with a knife. He fought his way out the front door and onto the porch, but Watson caught up with him, struck him over the head with a gun multiple times, stabbed him repeatedly, and shot him twice. Kasabian had heard quote-unquote horrifying sounds and moved towards the house from her position in the driveway where she was keeping watch. She told Atkins that someone was coming in an attempt to stop the murders inside the house. Folger escaped from Krenwinkel and fled out of a bedroom door to the pool area. Krenwinkel pursued her, caught her on the front lawn, where she stabbed her and tackled her to the ground. Holy shit, dude. Wait. Do you realize what's happening here? Folger escaped from Krenwinkel and fled out the bedroom door to the pool area. Okay. Keep that in mind. Krenwinkel pursued her. Oops, I bumped the mic. And caught her on the front lawn, where she stabbed her and tackled her to the ground. That is exactly, basically scene for scene, what happens in the open for Scream. Right? Drew Barrymore. She died the exact same way in Scream. She ran out through the pool area, ran around the house. Her parents were coming up the drive. Ghostface stabs her and tackles her to the ground. It's the exact same thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird for stopping it there, but I mean that was it's an uncanny resemblance to that scene. But not from the strangers though. So Watson then helped finish her off. Her assailants stabbed her 28 times. Wojciech struggled across the lawn, but Watson continued to stab him, killing him. Like as he was crawling, she continued to stab him. Wojciech suffered 51 stab wounds and also been struck 13 times in the head with the butt of Watson's gun, which bent the barrel and broke off a side of the gun grip. Wow. And this gun grip was required at the scene in the house. Tate pleaded to be allowed to live long enough to give birth. She was 8.5 months pregnant and offered herself as a hostage in an attempt to save the life of the unborn child. But both Atkins and Watson stabbed Tate 16 times, killing her. According to Watson, Manson had told the women to, quote-unquote, leave a sign, something witchy. Atkins wrote pig on the front door in Tate's blood. Atkins claims that she did this to copycat the murder scene of Gary Hinman in order to get Manson family member Bobby Buscemi out of jail, who was in custody for that murder. Buscemi wrote political piggy in Hinman's blood on his wall after stabbing him to death. He was arrested. They were trying to get him out of it. Wow, dude. I can't believe how uncanny the death of Folger was to that first opening scene in Scream. Just bananas to me. So the four murderers plus Manson the following night decided they wanted to go to a different house. They went for a drive. Manson was allegedly displeased with the panic and flight of the victims in the previous night's murders. He told Kasabian to drive to a house at 3301 Waverly Drive in Los Feliz section of Los Angeles, located next door to a home where Manson and his family members had attended a party that previous year. It belonged to a supermarket executive, Leno LaBianca, and his wife, Rosemary, co-owner of a dress shop. According to Atkins and Kasabian, Manson disappeared up the driveway and returned to say that he had tied up the house occupants. Then Watson, Krenwinkel, Van Houten, they all went in. Watson claims in his autobiography that Manson went up alone, then returned to take him up to the house with him. Manson pointed out a sleeping man through the window, and the two entered and unlocked the back door. Watson claims that Manson rused the sleeping Leno LaBianca from the couch at gunpoint and had Watson bind his hands with a leather thong. Rosemary was brought into the living room from the bedroom, and Watson covered the couple's heads with pillowcases, which he bound in place with lamp cords. Manson left, and Krenwinkel and Van Houten entered the house with instructions that the couple should be killed. Watson had complained to Manson earlier of an inadequacy of the previous night's weapons. Watson sent the woman from the kitchen to the bedroom where Rosemary LaBianca had been returned, while he went to the living room and began stabbing Leno LaBianca with a chrome-plated bayonet. Fuck. The first thrust went into his throat. Watson heard a scuffle in the bedroom and went there to discover that Rosemary had been keeping the woman at bay by swinging a lamp that was tied to her neck. He stabbed her several times with a bayonet, then returned to the living room and resumed attacking Leno, whom he stabbed a total of 12 times. He then carved the word war, into his abdomen. Watson returned to the bedroom and found Krenwinkel stabbing Rosemary with a knife from the kitchen. Van Houten stabbed her approximately 16 times in the back and her exposed buttocks. Van Houten claimed at trial that Rosemary LeBlanc was dead when she stabbed her. Evidence showed that many of the 41 stab wounds had, in fact, been inflicted post-mortem. Watson then cleaned out the bayonet and showered, while Krenwinkel wrote "Rise and Death to Pigs" on the wall and "Helter Skelter" on the refrigerator door in the blood of LaBianca. She gave Leno LeBlanc 14 puncture wounds with an ivory-handled, too-tin carving fork, which she left jutting out of his stomach. She also planted a steak knife in his throat. These people were fucking psychotic. Meanwhile, Manson drove the other three family members who had departed the Spawn Ranch with him that evening to the Venice home of an actor. He left them there and drove back up to the ranch, leaving them and the La Bianca killers to hitchhike home. According to Kasabian, Manson wanted his followers to murder the actors in his apartment, but Kasabian claims that she thwarted this murder by deliberately knocking on the wrong apartment door and waking a stranger. The group abandoned the murder plot and left, but Atkins defecated in the stairwell on the way out. Yikes. So yeah, that first one, Tate, and I assume probably the second one, the La Bianca murders, are the inspiration, not word for word or one-to-one. Obviously, I don't think the Manson family ever used masks, and it wasn't super creepy. I'm sure it was very scary for the victims involved. But The Strangers is a psychological thriller that really messes with your mind. And this was like in, kill, get out. I mean, the way that they did it was very brutal and very gross, but I don't, I kind of see the similarities, but I mean, the mask, the creepiness, this was more brutal than The Strangers was, I feel, but maybe that's just me. In initial confessions to cellmates at Sybil Brand Institute, Atkins said that she killed Tate. In later statements to her attorney, to prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, and before a grand jury, Atkins indicated Tate had been stabbed by Tex Watson. So she was just trying to cover her ass, or what's going on, or cover someone else's ass. In his 1978 autobiography, Watson said that he had stabbed Tate and that Atkins never touched her. Since he was aware that the prosecutor, Bugliosi, and the jury that had tried the other Tate LeBlanc defendants were convinced that Atkins had stabbed Tate, he falsely testified that he did not stab her. So, yeah, he was kind of being a piece of shit. So let's see. The five perpetrators: Atkins, Krenwinkel, Manson, Van Houten, I like that, and Watson were each tried and convicted for their roles in the Tate LaBianca murders. Originally, each defendant received a death sentence. However, in 1972, the Supreme Court of California ruled that in the People v. Anderson that the state's then current death penalty laws were unconstitutional. As a result, the Anderson decision spared the lives of 107 death row inmates in California, including Charles Manson and his 4 family members that were arrested for those crimes and tried. Subsequently, the death sentences for each of the 5 perpetrators convicted in the Tate LaBianca murders were commuted to life in prison, which by law included the possibility of parole. Susan Atkins. Atkins remained in prison until her death from brain cancer at 61 in 2009. Good. Fuck you. At the time of her death, she was California's longest-serving female inmate. Atkins had been denied parole 14 times, and her request for compassionate release had also been denied. Oh, you got brain cancer? You savagely, brutally murdered several people, so you're going to die in here. Patricia Krenwinkel. In prison in 1971, Krenwinkel remains incarcerated to this day following the 2009 death of fellow Manson gang member Susan Atkins. Krenwinkel is now the longest incarcerated female inmate in the California penal system. She had been denied parole 14 times, most recently in 2017. Good, you're never getting out. Charles Manson. Manson remained in prison until his death from cardiac arrest resulting from respiratory failure and colon cancer. Ooh, shit. On November 19th, 2017. He was just a few days past his 83rd birthday and had spent all but 13 years of his life in some sort of supervised setting, either prison, reformatory, or boys' home. While in prison, Manson had been denied parole 12 times. After 1997, he refused to attend any more of his parole hearings. He knew he was fucked. Leslie Van Houten. Upon her conviction and death sentence in 1971 at the age of 21, Van Houten became the youngest woman ever to put on California's death row, as well as the youngest member of the Manson family convicted of the murders. So good. She's currently incarcerated. Van Houten has been denied parole 22 times, most recently in 2019. At her 3 most recent parole hearings, Van Houten was approved for parole by the board, but in each case, the board's decision was overturned by the California governor. Oh, that's funny. And Charles Tex Watson. Watson remains incarcerated. He has been denied parole 17 times, most recently in 2016. While in prison, Watson claims that he has become a born-again Christian. Fuck you, dude. Absolutely fuck you. Yeah. So, that is the Tate murders and the LaBianca murders. The crimes that supposedly inspired the 2008 cult classic film, The Strangers. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic movie. Regardless of what the critics say, I think it's great. I think it is actually great. There is a socio-cultural impact here that this left, evidently. The Tate-LaBianca murders profoundly shook America's perception of itself and effectively sounded the death knell of 60s counterculture. Additionally, the ritualistic nature of the murders laid a foundation for the rise of satanic panic. That sounds like a heavy metal band. Culturally, it led to the proliferation of darkly psychosexual, conspiracy-laced cultural exploration of America's seedy underbelly by the movie industry, including films such as Clockwork Orange and Dirty Harry. Nice. Clockwork Orange is fantastic, man. Absolutely one of the best movies ever created, I think. Absolutely. We do have some pop culture here. 1974, after leaving the DA's office, prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, jointly with Kurt Gentry, wrote a book about the Manson trial called Helter Skelter, The True Story of the Manson Murders. The book won an Edgar Award from the Mystery Writers of America for the Best True Crime Book of the Year. The book was twice adapted as a television film, first in 1976, then later in 2004. As of 2015, Helter Skelter was the best-selling true crime book in publishing history, with more than 7 million copies sold. There have been several movies recounting the Tate-LaBianca murders and the subsequent criminal trials. Helter Skelter in 1976 and 2004. Quentin Tarantino's 2019 film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, featuring Margot Robbie as Tate. I did not know that. I love Quentin Tarantino. I did not see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The Haunting of Sharon Tate, a 2019 film. Aquarius, 2015 TV series. Mindhunter, 2017 TV series. Wolves at the Door, 2016 film. An American Horror Story, Season 7, Episode 10, I guess. Cool. In addition to Bugliosi's Helter Skelter, there are other books about the murders of the girls, which is a 2016 novel by Emma Cline, loosely inspired by the Manson family, and Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s, a 2019 nonfiction book by Tom O'Neill. So, yeah, if you want to check anything else out about the Mansons, you can definitely do that. Evidently, the Manson Family and Opera was released in 1990, so absolutely dumb. But whatever, there it is. That is the case of Charles Manson, the Manson family, and the Tate and LaBianca murders that inspired The Strangers in 2008. Again, if you haven't seen it, it's a fantastic movie. Absolutely love it. Yeah, I think I'm going to get, man. You know, we're just going to close it out here. Fantastic. I got some stuff to do, so I gotta go and get. Thank you guys so much for coming back each week. I greatly appreciate it. This episode might be a little longer than normal. Actually, maybe not. I don't have any idea, brother. I don't know who we're going to do next week for Spoopy Season Week 3, but we're going to do someone. Giggity. Or something, right? Maybe Supernatural? I don't know. We'll find out. Again, if you want something read on air, want to tell me who to cover next, anything else, you can send an email to cancelcallproductions@gmail.com. Head on over to totallyinnocentpodcast.com for all your merch and ways to support the show. Again, special thank you to our partners over at 3Chi. You can hit up the link in the show notes for a little bit of support to the show that way. Thank you to Anchor for sponsoring today's episode, as well as thank you to totallyinnocentpodcast.com for also sponsoring today's episode. Fantastic. I will see you guys next week for whoever we're going to do, and it's going to be a banger per usual. You guys take it easy. Have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Take care.